I let her steal my boat because I wanted her to. That's the kind of thing you can only say after you've won, right? But it's the honest truth. I didn't just catch my HOA director, a woman named Vanessa Thorne, creeping onto my property. I practically sent her an invitation written in steel and fiberglass. Look, after 2 decades in the service, surviving places where the silence was always trying to kill you, all I wanted was real quiet, the kind that settles deep into your bones. That's why I took the early out and bought this cabin, the old place my grandfather built on Sailor Cove. No rules, no corporate ladder, no approved anything, just water, the pines, and peace. For exactly 5 days, that's exactly what I had. Then came the squeak. You know that sound, rhinestone sandals on gravel, that high-pitched, self-important scrunch that lets you know a certain kind of person is approaching. I was staining my deck, just smelling the cedar and the coffee, and then she stopped right at the property line where my uncle had bolted the old, private property, sign. Vanessa Thorne, the newly appointed director of the Cypress Creek Association. Blonde bob sharp enough to cut glass, eyes hidden behind sunglasses that reflected my entire life back at me, and of course, the infamous clipboard. It wasn't just a clipboard, it was a weaponized document organizer with color-coded tabs and a laminated badge that screamed authority. "Good morning," she chimed, the voice bright and hostile, like a professionally polite grenade. "I'm Vanessa. We just love welcoming new homeowners to the community." I set my paintbrush down, slow and deliberate. "I'm Elias Vance. New neighbor. Lucky for me, I'm not in the community. Sailor Cove is private land." Her smile shortened, just a fraction. "Oh, the cabin, right. Technically, yes, you're just outside the deeded boundary." She said, technically, like it was a minor, regrettable technicality, a glitch in the matrix she was about to fix. She clicked her pen, the sound a nervous punctuation mark in the silence. "However, this particular stretch of shoreline has always been treated as a communal launch point, an honorary zone, if you will. We host sunset socials, paddleboard events, even the occasional baptism." I pointed with my paintbrush toward a rotting half-buried kiddie pool float and a pile of damp ashes I'd cleared earlier. "Your honorary zone leaves a lot of non-honorary traces. My grandfather didn't build this dock for sunset socials. He built it for fishing. And it belongs to me." She tilted her head, the move practiced, attempting to convey sympathetic authority. "Community spirit, Elias, means sharing. Cooperation is how we maintain harmony." "Harmony," I said, looking out at the water. "I spent the last 2 decades looking for real harmony. It starts with cleaning up your own mess and reading a property map, not demanding access to a place you don't own. That's when the real friction began." She dropped the cheerful facade, the steel coming through. "If you insist on closing off a historically accessible shoreline, it creates friction. Complaints. Meetings. Citations." I smiled, a slow, weary smile. "Citations, huh? If someone climbs my new fence, it creates a 911 call and an arrest. You can document that on tab A." She didn't blink. She just jotted something down on her clipboard with the satisfaction of a person writing words they intend to weaponize later, then turned, the rhinestone sandals scraping a farewell that sounded suspiciously like a declaration of war. That night, I knew I had a fight on my hands, and I started logging everything. I call it the Vance Surveillance Log, Volume 1, Cypress Creek Entitlement. I installed the heavy steel gates the next morning. Not pretty, not rustic, just high-gauge steel hinged into concrete footers I poured myself. I hung a clear sign, "Stop. Private property. Ring bell. Wait." And below it, in smaller, sharper letters, "Repeat trespassers will be impolitely escorted off the premises by the sheriff's office." I even hung a brass bell, ship grade, not because I was feeling whimsical, but because bells ring when people forget to read. For a week, the pattern was relentless. Morning work, quiet coffee, then the distant ding of the bell. It was never a request, it was an inspection. Vanessa, sometimes with a lieutenant or two, challenging my new, exclusionary aesthetic, citing tradition, and demanding a compromise where I would unlock my gate for their scheduled youth canoe clinic. "I'm allergic to helpful," I told her one afternoon, leaning on the gate, my hammer resting nearby. "Especially the kind that's mailed to my yard without consent. If you think your tradition is legally binding, bring me the deed and highlight the part that says, honorary zone. Until then, please leave." She'd glare, her lips making that thin white line of suppressed rage. "You'll regret this attitude, Elias. No one wants to be difficult." "I only regret not building a gate sooner," I'd reply. But she wasn't reckless, she was methodical. Every visit, every flyer, it was reconnaissance. She was probing the physical and psychological boundaries, looking for a weak spot, a moment of compliance. I realized gates weren't enough. I had to build something smarter than steel. Something she couldn't out-talk, outvote, or out-guilt. Out on the dock, under the cold moonlight, I looked at my pride and joy, the Rogue. Matte black, sleek, electric. I'd built the thing myself during my deployment years as a sanity project, wiring the controls like a secure military terminal. It had a custom onboard computer, GPS lock, remote diagnostics, and now, thanks to Vanessa, it was about to get a whole new purpose. I called the new function containment mode. When triggered without my authentication key, the boat would lock all manual controls, throttle to a safe 6 knots, and slowly cruise in figure eights across the middle of Sela Cove until I reset it. Harmless, controlled, and utterly, publicly embarrassing. The perfect reflection of her entitlement. I tested it from the dock. Rogue glided out, silent as a whisper, slicing perfect reflections in the water. Perfect. I couldn't stop smiling. The hook was set. The final move was simple. On Thursday, I polished Rogue's hull, checked the battery, 98%, and armed the geofence. Friday morning, I drove down the road, making sure to leave the lakeside gate slightly ajar, just enough to whisper temptation without screaming, "Trap." A real angler never yanks the line too soon. 20 minutes into my drive, my phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then 3 times in rapid succession. Alert, East Dock Gate breach. Alert, unauthorized access attempt. Alert, ignition activated without code. Containment mode initiated. Showtime. I pulled over by the old general store, opened the live feed, and there she was, Vanessa Thorne. She'd ditched the pastels for a dark hoodie, hair pulled back, clipboard thankfully nowhere in sight. She looked nervous, like a teenager stealing beer, glancing around for the cameras she knew had to be there. But she was committed. She reached the console, fumbled for a moment, and then, with a triumphant, ugly little grin, she hit the ignition. Rogue hummed to life. The bow dipped. Vanessa's smile widened, then instantly froze. The wheel locked. She twisted it, hard. Nothing. She mashed the controls. The screen flashed red, access denied. Autonav enabled. And then, silently and precisely, Rogue glided away from the dock, gently veered left, and began tracing its pre-programmed route. The perfect, elegant figure eight. I watched her mouth move, probably something HOA themed like, "This is an unacceptable compliance violation," but the wind carried her voice away. She waved her arms, pointed back at the dock, as if the boat would apologize and return. Rogue, to her credit, just kept looping. Around minute 3, she tried to stand up. Bad idea. The deck rocked, she stumbled, and just barely caught herself on the rail. I took a sip of my coffee and sent a text to Deputy Mark Howard, "Unauthorized use of private vessel in progress. Intruder unharmed but trapped. Sending GPS coordinates. Do not intervene." Howard replied in 30 seconds, "Copy that. On our way. Best show in the county, Ben." The next 45 minutes were pure art. Rogue sliced silver wakes through the water while Vanessa spun like a disgruntled carousel operator. When the county cruiser finally arrived, the sun was casting long orange streaks across the water, and Rogue was on its 23rd lap. Howard met me by the gate, fighting a smile. Doing all right out there, Ben? Depends on your definition of all right, I replied. Equal parts motion sickness and pride issues, I'd guess. When Rogue's battery hit 15%, the system guided her back to the dock. The boat coasted to a perfect stop, bumping gently against the rubber bumper. Vanessa tried to step out, missed, and landed half in, half out of the boat, one sandal soaking wet. Deputy Howard caught her arm. "Ma'am," he said, in the calm tone you use when explaining gravity to a belligerent toddler. "You're trespassing." "I was ensuring community safety," she croaked, clutching the railing. "That man's vessel was blocking access." I just shrugged. She blocked it better than I ever could. Howard confirmed no injuries, just a deeply bruised ego, and then looked back at me. "You sure you don't want to press charges? Theft, trespassing, resisting." "Not yet, Mark." She learned more in one loop than a courtroom could teach. But Vanessa being Vanessa, she filed a civil suit anyway. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in the county mediation office across from her and her lawyer, a slick, over-cologned guy who looked like he'd lost a bet with a hair gel commercial. Vanessa was wearing a pearl necklace and sunglasses indoors, sipping from a metal water bottle like it contained holy water. My lawyer, Donna Carter, a mid-40s former JAG officer with eyes like clean steel, didn't bring a stack of files. She brought one thin folder and a small tablet. Vanessa launched into her martyr audition. "Your Honor, I was terrified, dizzy. I could have drowned. Mr. Vance weaponized a device to entrap me." Donna didn't even stand up. She pressed play on the tablet. The courtroom speakers came alive with crystal clear audio, access denied. Autonav mode enabled. Followed by Vanessa's frantic voice, "What? No. Stop. Stop turning. You stupid machine. I'm the director." Laughter rippled through the room before the mediator could pound his gavel. Donna paused the audio and stood up, calm as a glacier. "Your Honor, the system clearly states it's an automated safety feature. Miss Thorne wasn't trapped, she was protected from herself." Donna then produced the county parcel map, my deed, and then, the kill shot, a screenshot of the HOA bylaws, Section 4, Subsection B. Miss Campbell's jurisdiction applies only to lots explicitly registered within Cypress Creek. Lot 12, Mr. Vance's property, is independent non-HOA land. She has about as much authority there as over the moon. The judge looked at Vanessa over his glasses. "You wrote this bylaw, Miss Thorne." It was emotional," she whispered. "Most things are, Miss Thorne," he said dryly. "But emotions don't override property law." Case dismissed, with prejudice. Vanessa Thorne was removed as director a week later. She sold her house and was gone within 48 hours, no announcement, no goodbye post, just a for sale sign like a gravestone to hubris. The lake finally settled. The air smelled like pine and victory. I still go out on the dock every evening. The Rogue rests loyal and quiet in its slip. I even got a postcard from a neighbor, Cheryl Bennett, the one who actually said hello when I moved in. It was stapled to the new HOA charter update. "Dear Mr. Vance, while the HOA cannot officially condone your boat incident, many of us secretly applauded it. You reminded us that rules without respect are just noise. Enjoy the peace you've earned. CB." I pinned it to my fridge. Peace, after all, isn't about escaping noise. It's about teaching the noise to respect boundaries. This lake finally learned who it belongs to. Now, tell me, have you ever had a Vanessa Thorne in your life? Someone who tried to claim what was yours in the name of community spirit? How did you defend your boundaries, with a lawsuit, a fence, or maybe, a brilliant, beautiful trap. Share your story in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button if you think public humiliation is sometimes the only way to teach a bully a lesson.